Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today you join me as I go to pick up a cheap Ford Focus that I've just bought for £2,000. It's a 2013 1 litre Zetec and it's done 106,000 miles. Now if you know anything about the 1 litre EcoBoost engine, you'll think I'm a complete madman for buying a 10-year-old example with high mileage. And you'd be quite right, because yes, for a certain number of years, I think it was 2012 to 2014, they were quite problematic. In fact, saying that it's quite problematic is a bit of an understatement. They didn't get the EcoBoom nickname for nothing. But my theory with this one is, a 10-year-old example that's done 106,000 miles must have been fixed. Forever the optimist, aren't I? In all seriousness though, thinking pragmatically, it can't not have been done. It's a bit like when you see a petrol K-series engine from an early Freelander or an MG. It can't not have been. They all failed, and by now they'll have all been replaced. So the same thing goes with this Focus. I've paid £2,000 for it, so I'm thinking if I spend around £400–500 on it, giving it a service, fresh MOT, whatever else it needs, it might need the odd tyre or brake disc or pad or whatever else. Once I've done that, it should owe me around £2,500, and it should be worth at least £4,000, possibly £4,500. So there's a good profit margin. And this sort of thing's a guaranteed seller. They're cheap to tax, cheap to insure, cheap to run, and they're a practical family car. I just know once this is advertised, it won't last 5 minutes. As always, before I agreed to buy it, I checked it out using Car Vertical. Now it's really important that you do a vehicle history check before you part with any cash. All you do is go to carvertical.com, type in the vehicle reg or the VIN number, and it'll tell you whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance. Being a used car dealer, I do thousands of these checks every single year, and I found Car Vertical to be the most thorough. It provides all the previous MOT history, sometimes it provides the service history, sometimes it even shows you the previous photographs from when it was advertised. So it is a really handy tool. It isn't expensive, and it's cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. Or simply click the link which I'll leave below in the video description. Right, let's go and have a look at it, shall we? Well, this is the Focus, ladies and gentlemen, and it's alright really. I mean, I've bought worse cars, I've obviously bought better ones too, but for a 106,000 mile Ford Focus, it's not bad. I think it's been owned by somebody who's cared for it, shown it a little bit of love, because it's got seat covers on, and underneath the upholstery is very clean. The radio was set to classic FM, and it's got full service history. So it doesn't need, I don't think, an awful lot doing to it. There are a few little areas where the bodywork isn't 100%, so I'll have to get those touched in carefully. I don't think it's worth repainting whole panels, to be honest, at this price point, but I can certainly make it look better. But we've got 2 keys, a heated windscreen, air conditioning which works. It's not bad really. Saying that, I actually think Ford took a massive step backwards with this generation of Focus. I think the shape which went before it was actually much better. Every single Focus I see from this era has always got its weather strip dangling down by the floor, but this one hasn't, which I'll be honest is a complete shock. I think what I'll do then is run it down to my mechanics for a service, MOT, sort out that wheel bearing, and do whatever else it needs. I'm hoping to spend around £500 on this. If I can have it owing me 2.5, maybe 2.6, then there's a decent chunk of profit. It does have quite a lot going for it, so I'm sure it'll sell quickly. It's quite a good looking car. I think it looks good in white. It looks quite sporty, being the Zetec model. It drives very well. It's cheap road tax, cheap to insure because it's only a 1 litre. So, all in all, not bad. And apart from that droning wheel bearing, it does drive alright. I actually feel quite sporty, these Foci. That reminds me, at secondary school in Spain, I had this Spanish teacher whose English wasn't brilliant, and he'd always say, "Cállate ya!" all that sort of stuff. And he'd always say, "All of you, focus, focus." I'd be thinking, well, there's no need for that. And then it dawned on me one day, I thought, actually, no, he's trying to say focus, focus. It just sounded worse than it was. Focus. What else can I tell you about it? I think that's about it then, really. I think what I'll do now then, I'll pull over and give you a quick tour. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with this bodywork. Also, I've spotted it's got those door guards on. Focuses of this era, as an optional extra, had a door protector which pops out, and they always break. I think just one works on this particular car. I'll show you what I mean in a second. I think I'll do it here because I've spotted a Brera that I can gawp at. So yeah, like I say, 106,000 miles. 2 keys. We've got electric windows in the front, but not the rear. Electric mirrors, lights, fog lights, all that sort of stuff. Not bad though, is it? Heated front screen, heated rear screen, air conditioning, a couple of cup holders, some coin storage. But yeah, you see that thing there? That pops out and it's supposed to protect the door here so you don't bash it into a wall. But it's always missing its end little strip. This one I think has it. Watch this, you ready? Quite a neat idea, isn't it? But they're always broken. There we go. So bodywork wise, that will buff off. That needs touching in. There's no point in repainting that really because it's a 106,000 mile car. It does need a good buff actually. Lots of little fine marks on it. But quite tidy, quite straight. We've got a mohawk on the front with about 3 mil perhaps. Not a bad looking car though, is it? Yeah, I think most of that will buff off. If I can buff off the worst bits and then just carefully touch in the little bits of paint that's missing, I think that will just take your eye off it. The worst bit here really is that door because that's had some paint and you can see here where it's starting to peel off. In fact, you know, that's, looking at it again, that's worse than I thought. That might need painting. And it's missing its little door protector there. Well, like I say, inside, it's all quite clean. It's got these seat protectors on, and they're like new underneath, so that's good. I think I'll order a set of mats for it. Yeah, right guys, I think I've changed my mind here. I think that needs painting. I can't really just blob that in, can I? And round the back, this is a real common issue on Fords. We always seem to lose the paint here and there. But I think I could just touch that in. It will look different again with a good old clean. This era Focus always suffers with water leaks. Now it doesn't smell damp, this one, so I think this one's okay. It's all quite dry under there. So I think that's good. And yeah, that's about it. The roof isn't dented, we're all okay. Back here, there are no seat covers on and the seats are a little bit stained, but they will all clean up. Excuse my jacket there. But it smells quite clean. So yeah, that's about it. Wow, it's nippy up here. So I think then I'm going to head down to my mechanics now, crank this heater on because I'm shivering, and I'll see you in, don't know, a week or two. Give me a fortnight, I'll get it sorted. Cheers guys. Well, my cheap Focus project is now finished. Where should we start? Should we start with the 4 brand new tyres it needed, the disc and pads, or the engine rebuild? What do you think? I've spent big money on this, and in hindsight it was a total waste of time, effort and energy. But let's not be all glass half empty. I hate people who play the victim all the time, so I shan't be one of those. There's still a little microscopic bit of profit in this, I think. Let me tell you what happened then. After we last spoke, I was driving it down to my mechanics, and about 5 minutes after I turned off the camera and disconnected my microphone, the oil pressure light came on. At that point, I was only about a mile away from my mechanic, so I thought I'll just coast it down there. I'll be very gentle with it and I'll get it there and see what it is. I was hoping that it might have just been a dodgy sensor. Modern cars are filled with sensors and stuff, and they occasionally go wrong. My mechanic looked at it and reckoned that I ought to just take it to an engine specialist and have them look at it. Now, unfortunately, after a recent few headaches, I'm on first name terms with said engine specialist. That's another story. Rather than drive it there and potentially do more damage, I arranged for a car transporter to pick it up and get it trailered there instead. That cost me £80. At that point, I thought my theory about buying a high mileage EcoBoost being okay was absolute twaddle, but all wasn't as it seemed. A couple of days later, I got a call from the mechanic at the engine specialist, and they said, right, it's all ready to pick up. So I thought, that's strange, I was expecting it to be down there for months. So I went along and picked it up and he explained what had gone wrong. Now, these EcoBoost engines have a cam belt, which isn't that unusual, but what's quite unusual about the EcoBoost engine is that the cam belt is submerged in the oil all the time. It's bathed in oil. I think it runs through the sump or something. I'm not a mechanic, obviously, you might be able to tell that. But in theory, it's quite a good idea because the belt is constantly lubricated by the engine's oil. The trouble is, though, over time, people either don't bother to service them or they use the wrong oil, which can lead to the belt degrading. Then you get little fragments of that rubber belt which break off and block the oil pickup pipe, which leads to oil starvation, and then your engine goes pop. So it's quite simple really. So if you've got an EcoBoost engine, you must service it regularly and you must use the correct oil. Luckily, I saved this one just in time. It hadn't done any damage. I say luckily, I still had a £1,200 bill, but it could have been far worse. So the engine specialist took it all to bits, cleaned out all the little bits of broken rubber, fitted a new cam belt, gave it a service, and then it was ready for me to collect. So I picked it up from there and took it down to my mechanics for its wheel bearing and its MOT. I was hoping that after my £1,200 bill to sort the engine out, this would just sail through its MOT. Wrong again. Now the good news is it didn't actually need a wheel bearing. What happened was, one of the tyres had got a couple of eggs on it, so when you drove down the road, it created this sort of humming noise, which I misinterpreted for a wheel bearing. My mechanic replaced that tyre, but they got all the other tyres off as well at the same time, and they were all damaged or in poor condition, so I replaced all 4. It also needed front brake discs and pads, because the back of the discs, I saw this when I went down there and it was up on the ramp, the back of the front brake discs were completely rotten. So it's had new discs and pads as well. And do you remember the door protectors that pop out as soon as you open the door? It was an optional extra on this. Well, 3 were broken or missing, so I replaced those as well. They were about £20 each. In hindsight, I'm not really sure why I bothered to do that, but I just thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. So my bill there was about £800. Now you don't need to be a mathematician to add 800 to 1200, so I'm already up to £2,000, which was my initial purchase price. So the car owes me about £4,000. We're not finished yet. Then I picked it up from my mechanics and took it over to the valeters. Now, beforehand, I took off the seat protectors. Now, luckily, under the seat protectors, the seats were in really good condition. So I spent another £60 having a full valet done, and it's cleaned up really well. Now, at that point, because I've spent too much money on this car, I decided not to do the paint work. What I did instead was get it back to work. I found some Ford Polar White. We've got loads of touch-up pens left over from hundreds of cars over the years. So I managed to find a really good match. So I managed to just touch in the paint myself. And if you inspect it really closely, it isn't great. But from a distance, I think it looks all right. And I think you might have a different opinion than me. Let me know below in the comments. But I think it's acceptable on a 106,000 mile Focus. Right then, let me park up somewhere scenic and I'll talk you through every single one of my costs. Pop the kettle on, will you? Here will do then. This might take a while. There are lots and lots of bills. Okay, may as well knock the engine off. Right, my first bill then was with the engine specialist. So let me find this. I took a picture of it just so I could show people. That was £1,000 plus VAT, so £1,200 total. So on the bright side, I will get the £200. I'll be able to claim the £200 VAT back against my bill. It's not all bad news, is it? They did, right, what did they do? Remove timing covers and sump, clean pickup pipe, check oil pump and big end bearings, and refit the above parts, which included timing belt kit, oil filter, and water pump coolant flange. That was £1,200. My next bill was at my mechanics. That was 4 tyres, front discs and pads, MOT, and those door things, those door protectors. That was £826. Let me add this up. So we've got the £2,000 I paid for the car, plus the £1,200 for the cam belt and engine work, plus the £826 of my mechanics. What else did I do? £80 to recover it to the engine specialist, so I didn't do any damage. Valet was £60. I didn't replace the number plates. Didn't buy any mats. I will buy some mats actually. I'll add in £12 for mats. I'll order those now. What else? I think that's it. So my total is £4,178. It's currently advertised for £4,495. So this is slim pickings, isn't it? £4,495. So I'll make, if it sells for the asking price, £322. That's just my fuel light, don't panic. Nearly written off there by Tesla Model 3. Why do Model 3 drivers always look the same? They always look really smug. They always look as if they work in IT. Anyway, before I end up getting cancelled for making disparaging comments about Tesla owners, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. And yeah, cheers guys. See you next time.